welcome to another episode of the Sell More Book Show, episode 517. I'm Brian Cohen from Best Page Forward, joined by former co-host of this show, but a current wonderful person, Claire Taylor from FFS Media. Claire, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm glad that I kept the title of wonderful person.
Yeah.
And didn't hang that up when I departed the show. Yeah, I'm doing good. I got a Kickstarter going on. It's going. So that's always fun. I think I've talked plenty about how much I enjoy a good Kickstarter. So just riding that, surfing that wave right now. How about you, Brian?
Well, I'm not ready to get off that subject, Claire.
Oh, okay.
So what is this kick? This is the first I've heard of this Kickstarter. What is it? How does it work?
All right. Well, this Kickstarter is called Sustain Your Author Career. Plenty of people might have heard of my other book, Reclaim Your Author Career. This is Sustain Your Author Career. Brian, thank you for helping me think of that title that was staring me right in the face that I couldn't have come up with without you.
No problem.
So this one is kind of building off of the Reclaim Your Author Career, where we looked at, how to create and structure and sort of mastermind an aligned career to you based on your Enneagram type. And Sustain Your Author Career is kind of taking that to the next step of, okay, so you have this aligned career. What happens when your life circumstance changes? What happens when the industry shifts? How do you sustain that alignment and keep yourself sustainable so that your career can be sustainable, since author careers tend to be built around the author and their ability to produce work. So so that's what this book is about. And then the Kickstarter offers all different levels of support, because I think something that this whole industry can benefit from is a little bit more welcoming attitude toward finding support when we need it and building the support ahead of time and accepting that support is not a failing, but a wonderful thing that, humans were designed to need. So, you can kind of look at, okay, what support do I need right now to get this new mindset going? And then I have tiers that will work for wherever you find yourself in that.
That is awesome. I do remember hearing about this campaign, in part because it's already, even in just its first day, hit $10,000 in funding, 200% funded. I mean, why do you think this message resonates with people, Claire?
I think it resonates with people because we are all looking for some relief. Things are changing. It's exhausting. And I think we're looking for something to help anchor us so that we aren't, like little buoys just bobbing on the surface of the ocean as it goes up and down, being kind of thrown around. So that is what this book promises. I hope it delivers. I think it will. I've worked really hard on it, and I've been very critical of myself during the process. So if it can stand up to my standards, I think we're all right. But so I think that's really what's resonating with people. And I think that as the sort of dreams of there being a silver bullet, or if you just do X, then Y will happen, I think those dreams are starting to be shattered. And that's great. I know it hurts, but it's great, because now we can say, okay, what if there isn't one or two or three paths to success? What if there are as many paths to success as there are people walking the path? So that's what I want to do, is really look at this sort of individualization of everyone's author career and say, like, you don't have to do things that don't work for you. And that's liberating in itself. And so I think that's resonating with people as they're like, okay, why would I conform myself and twist myself into some shape thinking that it's going to bring success if it's not going to bring success? That's just wasted time.
Yeah. Where can people find how to sustain your author career?
If you go to kickffs.com, that will take you to the Kickstarter. That's a redirect link right there.
Wonderful. Awesome. For me, I'm looking forward to a bunch of things. I'm looking forward to, I've got a blurb webinar tomorrow on turning your conflict into a stellar blurb. If your book's conflict into a stellar blurb. That URL will be on the good old-fashioned Sell More Book Show website. Definitely very old-fashioned. And I'm looking forward to Claire coming to North Carolina, hanging out with me and Becca Simon, Jen LaSalle, and Naomi Nakashima for Self-Publishing Live. Claire, I don't know if I told you, there's only 12 tickets left.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for that event.
Yeah.
It's going to be so great. I just love the return to like the kind of smaller, more
Mm-hmm.
intimate events. And you host such a great event, Brian, I do have to say. And that's not me just flattering you because you allowed me back on the show. I mean, you do host very good events where everyone feels welcome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it plays well to my strengths, thankfully, of wanting to make sure everybody in the room is taken care of. And so, but yeah, no, and that's at selfpublishinglive.com. So, Claire, we've got a question of the week from a previous week that is very aligned with what we're talking about and what you're talking about, which is what would be a part of your future burnout recovery plan. Louis Castonguay said lots of quilting, which I know
right.
my mom would love that idea. Next one to you.
Bethany Tucker said, I avoid burnout by regularly taking the weekend off. No social media, no cell phones. Yard work helps.
Ooh.
I am so right with you on that, Bethany.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, folks, only 2 of you answered, but we need burnout plans. So
maybe people don't have a burnout recovery plan, in which case,
yes,
the bonus that was just unlocked in my Kickstarter, maybe just for them.
Ooh, teaser.
The stretch goal is a burnout avoidance / recovery workshop. So anyone who backs at $10 or more can jump into that.
kickffs.com. Awesome. Love it. Okay. So let's get into, you can always answer the question of the week, of course, at sellmorebookshow.com or in the Sell More Book Show after party. Let's get into the top story of the week. Vellamentary, my dear authors. On Monday, Amazon announced substantial changes to the Kindle Vella platform, which could dramatically reduce what authors earn on their Vella serials, according to the KDP Community Forum. Currently, the first 3 episodes of each serial story are free to read, but Amazon will be increasing that to 10 before readers have to start paying. While this gives the reader more opportunity to decide if they want to keep going, it will also reduce author royalties. In addition, Amazon is simplifying the per-episode pricing, supposedly to make it easier for readers to understand, but once again at the expense of authors. Going forward, all paid episodes will require 10 prepaid tokens to unlock, no matter the word count. Currently, longer episodes take more tokens to read, thereby paying authors more if episodes are on the longer side. Finally, Amazon will no longer be offering 200 free tokens to new Vella readers, something that many Vella authors use to entice readers to give their stories a try. While Amazon says these changes are aimed at improving the reader experience, some speculate that it may be in response to authors gaming the Vella system. As author Quinn Ward pointed out on Facebook, Amazon changed the Kindle Unlimited payout system and stopped providing paid promo codes to ACX authors because of abuses of the system. Quote, Vella is now changing the structure, says Ward. Remember, Amazon's programs aren't required. If you don't like the Vella payout, release the episodes as a book or move them over to a subscription platform. You have to be ready and willing to adapt when you're using platforms you don't own. Claire, I feel like this could have been taken from your book to a certain extent. When things hit the fan, what are we going to do? You don't have control. We were just talking off the air about how much control we do or do not have. Spoiler alert, very little. So, Claire, what were your first thoughts when you heard about this story?
Well, I don't know that Vella has ever been set up for massive author success. I know we've covered this over the years. It's kind of been off to a shaky start, and Amazon has always had a tough time getting people to read on Vella for various reasons. But this looks like they're trying to get more readers. And of course, it's going to be at the cost of a lot of authors. But this is a relatively new platform anyway. You kind of have to expect that there's going to be these adjustments, these course corrections that Amazon's trying to do to make it work. And the other option that they could have taken is just to shut it down, which if it doesn't work for them, they'll just shut it down. So, it's not ideal. It kind of looks like it's going from bad to worse for authors on Vella, but making these adjustments might be better than the alternative, which is that it just doesn't make Amazon money. They can't get enough readers on it and they cancel it.
Yeah, we don't want the cancellation. I think Quinn had some good points of, well, if you don't like it, you can get off and do something else. You can pivot. I mean, how important is the developing that pivot muscle, Claire?
Well, as with any change in the industry, one of our best tools can be to stop, pause, and do some deep breaths before we start trying to address the problem. Because this is like a fundamental shift in what's happening with Vella. And so that can be really, sort of disorienting and upsetting. But I think that Quinn is right. You might want to just make sure you know when is enough and when you're going to go somewhere else. There are plenty of other serial platforms out there. Not as many as there used to be. I feel like for a while these tech companies are trying to make fetch happen and it just wasn't. But there are other options. You can do it on your own platform, create your own platform, get people to subscribe. I feel like the form of a serial is really versatile. And so you can do a lot of creative things with it if you don't want to be on this system anymore with Vella. You have options. And that's something that I really want to impress on people, because people get very frantic when they feel like there are no options. So you have options. You may not have seen them yet. If you can't see the options, find someone who can help you see them.
Yeah. Once again, support. Having support can be really helpful for these things.
Absolutely.
So Claire, going into the hot potatoes of wisdom, they should be the, Claire Taylor honorary RIP hot potatoes of wisdom. If an author is unhappy with these upcoming Vella changes, what do you think are some of the options for them to pivot? Let's say they have paused and taken some breaths already.
Right. So you have the option of continuing just as you were continuing, right? So there are some changes. The first 10 episodes, you're going to make a little bit less money. But if you're making a lot of money, making a little bit less might not be a big deal. If you're making no money, making a little bit less is not a big deal. So you have the option of staying and continuing and trying to see it through. That's totally an option. And it may work out for you. Nobody knows. It may work out for you. You also have the option to, you can discontinue the story. You can do all kinds of things depending. I'm not super familiar on what Vella's exclusion or exclusivity clauses are at this point, because I think they've changed those a little bit. But if you can continue the story elsewhere, continue the story elsewhere. Or if you can take it down and publish it somewhere elsewhere, do that,
Yeah.
So you have all of these options. You could also try and get some of the Vella readers over to something else that you're writing. So I think that there are all kinds of options, and it's really great to be a creative person because you can just make this up. We're just making this up, right? So you can make something up and give it a try. If they're really just paying you a pittance on Vella, then what do you have to lose?
Yeah. I like this concept of, hey, we can use our creativity to figure out our way out of this situation, not just out of a plot hole.
Right. So, okay, Brian, how do you decide whether to suck up a change you don't agree with or pivot?
So when you're trying to figure out, once something has changed, maybe dramatically, if you suck it up or you pivot, I think you really need to make sure you have all the information. I keep hearing email lists are dead. Email lists are dead. And I still think that my current business, helping authors, almost 80 to 90% of my success remains on the back of this old ancient technology. And so I think a lot of people have thought, oh, I heard this was dead once, or oh, I read this on a Facebook group, if you can get into Facebook. Yesterday, we couldn't get in it at all, and I couldn't either, ever again, possibly. And so you hear these things and you assume, well, that must be true, but you have to question everything, especially in this day and age. We need to question what we hear, question our assumptions, because there is a chance that even after something, has had the red mark of death imprinted upon it, it might still actually be working and be the best thing that you ever kept doing.
Yeah, I love that. So it's almost like you can't see the future.
Yeah.
So you have to decide based on the limited information you're given.
Oh, man. It's like a murder mystery.
Sleuth out your career. That's my next book. Sleuth your author career.
Your career. I like that. I like that. Awesome. Well, we're going to go into the lightning round. Claire, since you left the show about, I don't know, 5 months ago? I'm not sure.
Who knows? Time's a flat circle.
Yeah, there have been lots of lightning noises that people have volunteered. So it's your turn to come back and throw your lightning noise into the hat here. Ooh, I like that.
I wish I could do better, but that's all I got. I'm out of practice,
Yeah, I know.
I'm out of practice from the show.
It's tough.
Crackle lightning.
Yeah,
there we go. Well, all right, I'm back.
Yeah,
guys.
that was
I'm
good.
back.
That was that wasn't like an onomatopoeia. Okay, so Claire, what big changes have made you pivot your author strategy?
That's a really great question, and I look not so much at what's happening in the industry, because my strategy is sort of independent of that. I mean, I take into consideration some factors, but the big changes that I've made that have made me pivot, or the big changes that have made me pivot in my author strategy, are life situations, my own life situations. As that changes, I have to adjust. I think a lot of people focus their attention on what's happening in the industry and adjusting to that, and ignore what's happening at home. But as things change at home, you have less bandwidth, you have less support, more support. And so you can adjust your daily routine and what you're trying to accomplish based on that. So that has been something I've had to pivot a little bit. I had big plans to also be writing my next cozy mystery during this Kickstarter, but I had to say goodbye to my dog a few weeks ago and I just don't have the energy. So I said, okay, my strategy is changing and I am just doing this Kickstarter. And that means that I do maybe been doing like a podcast a day and a little bit of email, and then I go lay in my hammock, and that's the max I can do. So I've had to adjust my strategy to that, because you just can't force it. You just got to work with what you got. So I think that when your life changes, it's time to pivot.
Yeah. Really good perspective on that. Just looking at your home life maybe even first instead of last could be a good idea.
Exactly. Look at what you're working with. Be honest with yourself. It'll only hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian, how does an author prepare themselves to pivot if focus in one direction is so important?
So when you keep hearing the advice to focus, which I am often giving, focus in one direction, the old John Lee Dumas advice, follow one course until success. But you also need to be ready to be able to pivot. And I think one of the things I take from the I think it's called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. It's tough to come up with book titles on the fly. But this book actually talked a lot about kind of preparing for disaster, being able to be prepared. Talked about it a lot with pilots and if things go wrong in the cockpit, and how you need to kind of start planning your emergency plan, your burnout recovery plan, your if the industry pivots plan. It never hurts to do a little bit of brainstorming and think about what you might do because that is going to stretch your brain in ways that you wouldn't be able to if you just assume, everything I'm doing today is going to work forever, which it won't. And so you have to think about other ideas, other options. What would I do if? Um, there's a lot of, poo pooing on the idea of coming up with a business plan. But I think coming up with a business plan of what would your business do if things radically changed is just a good mental exercise.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Claire, what is the difference between reclaiming your author career and sustaining your author career?
So I talked a little bit about this already, but to reclaim your author career means to basically take back the expectations of it from what it should be, right, to what it makes sense for you. So that was what I covered in the first book, aligning your career to you and who you are rather than trying to change yourself to fit some, made up idea of what success requires. Now, sustaining your author career is a little bit deeper work because you can't have a sustainable author career if you are not a sustainable author. And so we're really looking at the patterns of thinking, feeling, and doing in that book, and making sure that you know how to check in, how to run the diagnostics. And when you're just feeling worn out, I give you a lot of troubleshooting to assess what the block actually is and some new ideas for getting around it. So we're looking at options so that even if the unexpected happens, you have the tools to keep going.
KickFFS.com. Okay. Yeah, no, that's great because I think, I imagine each book in your series, and I know you're planning a third one too, is going to go a little bit deeper and go a little bit deeper. And it's scary to go deep, but necessary if you want to make this a long haul situation.
Yeah. It's relief. Even if it's not all fun, it's relief.
Yeah.
All right, Brian. What are some tactics you've used to help yourself focus on long-term sustainability?
Some of the tactics I've used to become more sustainable include time off, massage on a regular basis, meditation, and staying, really coming back to my breath, and just trying to get more sleep. Honestly, like some of those things seem like, well, how could that help your business? It has, and it continues to, and it makes me enjoy what I do more. And I'm so glad that adding all those things to exercise on a daily basis, I am so glad that I prioritize those now because it has really helped me in a big way.
Yeah, I love that. The small actions, people doubt them. I was actually listening to this. This is total tangent, but there's this funny dentist on Instagram, Dr. Brady Smith. I think people have probably seen him. He's gone viral, but he's talking about how he's like dentists get this bad rap, but we're the only people who are trying to save you from ever having to come see us again. We're trying to tell you preventative things and nobody listens. So we're rich, but it's really your fault.
That's amazing.
And it's, those little practices every day. It's a hysterical monologue, but yeah, I feel like that's kind of just the hardest thing for us to understand is that those small things done frequently are life-changing.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, to finish us off with the last lightning round question, Claire, how do you stay fulfilled in a time like maybe right now in your life when you have less writing time than you might like?
Yeah, writing is very fulfilling for me, but when I don't have time to do it every day or during a period of time, I have a lot of other things that I've built in my life that are very fulfilling. And usually, if I'm not writing, it's because I'm doing one of those other things. But also, as long as I keep an eye on frustration, because sometimes frustration can creep in when I don't get to sit down and do my writing, like, oh, I just want to get to my writing, right? That emotion is unnecessary. I can reframe that. I can shift that and notice that, oh, I'm letting frustration come in. That's actually very draining energy for me. So I'm not going to participate in that. I can instead think, oh my gosh, I'm building up so much energy. It's going to just, when I sit down, I'm just going to be able to like have the words pour out. It's going to feel so good. And so changing that and just keeping an eye on the frustration patterns allows me to engage with other activities, whatever I'm doing, in a way that allows them to be fulfilling instead.
Love that. When you talked about the frustration, made me think about Elise Myers, the successful TikTok and YouTuber. When negative energy or frustration comes at her saying, "I do not receive that." And
Yes.
I just love that idea, and you made me think of that. So, I mean, you're basically like, an Elise Myers.
Let me tell you, when she took off, the number of people that sent me her videos, like, is this you? I was like, oh my God, when are we going to get through this?
I
So I
know.
thought we were
Never.
through it, but now we're back.
Yeah, never. Never. Claire, we need a question of the week. Are you really Elise Myers? Is taken. We can't do that. But we could talk about Vella. I mean, we could talk about anything. What do you want to talk about?
I think we should look at people's pivot approach. When do they decide when it's time to pivot or if it's time to stay the course?
Okay. When do you decide to
Or I guess, how
pivot?
do you decide when and how?
When and how do you decide to pivot from something that has stopped working, do we say? Or something that has changed?
Yes,
That
there we
has
go.
changed in the author world. So you can answer that question of the week over at sellmorebookshow.com or in the comment section in the Sell More Book Show after party. Claire, I'm so glad you were able to come back. We've
Me
got you for
too.
another whole week, which is just a special joy.
Oh, it feels good coming back. I'm glad to be here. It's like
Good.
coming back after college or, in summer break. I just come here, do my laundry, get some good meals.
Yeah, we kept your room for you. It's,
Thank you. Yes. Thank
we
you for
made,
keeping the
we
giraffe and
washed the
everything.
sheets, Yeah, yeah. Well, it's always a pleasure, and I'm so glad people can go support your Kickstarter at kickffs.com.
Yeah. Me too, Brian. Thanks for having me on so I could casually mention this project that I'm working
So
on.
casually, so casually. You are so welcome, Claire. Well, Claire will be back next week. I will be here too, I think. So, come on back and see us. I hope all of you have a wonderful week of book selling, and we'll talk to you next week for episode 518. Bye.
Bye.